Y'all, it's your boy Easy, and on today's episode of Easy Opens, we're going to be taking a look at the Neca Sesame Street Ultimate Bert figure. Alright, so Bert was created by Jim Henson and Don Solon. He first appeared on the first episode of Sesame Street back in 1969. He is a human Muppet who lives with his best friend Ernie in the basement apartment at 123 Sesame Street. Both of whom were created to teach children that people can be good friends with those who are very different from themselves. He is the long-suffering straight man to Ernie's comedian. He loves reading boring stories, collecting bottle caps and paper clips. He plays the tuba. He has a pigeon named Bernice, and he is the president of the National Association of W Lovers, which is fantastic to me. The box art is also fantastic to me. It's great. NECA always does a great job with their boxes, but we're not here to talk about that. So let's get this figure free from its plastic prison and see what we think about Bert. All right, fresh out the box, this figure looks amazing. I am very taken with this line. It's just triggering so many good feelings for me, and holding it in my hand finally after seeing all the stuff online about it leading up to the release is just a great feeling, and they look so good. I mean, NECA's just done a great job bringing this figure to life. Just like, it just looks like it comes right off the screen and into my hands. The sculpt looks fantastic. You've got all sorts of subtle folds and creases in his shirt and his pants, and it just catches the light, creates shadows, and just makes this figure come alive and gives it dimension, and just really works very well with the whole aesthetic of this figure, and brings it even more to life. And then the likeness in the face is like perfect in my opinion. Like this is Bert, like it's just like if he started talking to me right now, I'd just be like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Like that's just how dead on it looks to me. And even the texture on his face and head and hands are they just the look and then the tactile feel of this figure just combine to make it like a really cool action figure on like all levels. And I'm just like super happy about this line so far. And I gotta say though, holding it, I don't know that I like the color choices for Bert's shirt, but if I'm being completely honest, I don't remember Bert wearing what shirt he wore. Not that I remember him topless. I just don't remember what shirt he wore. I get that like he's wearing vertical stripes to Ernie's horizontal stripes to illustrate that they are very different. But like it doesn't look bad at all, but it's just like, I don't know, sometimes it catches my eye and it's a little jarring. It could be because when the bars are vertical like this, it reminds me of like when the TV channels like were like that you couldn't find a channel, or you went to like a source and it wasn't there or something, and it would show those bars. It kind of is giving me that, and maybe that's throwing me off. I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't look bad by any means, but it's just hitting me weird today while I'm reviewing this, because I don't think I had these thoughts until right now when I was recording this. So take that for what you will. Nevertheless, the detail in these clothes are fantastic. But I want to highlight something that I highlighted in my Ernie review. The shoes on these figures are insane. These shoes look so cool. Like, I mean, they look kind of uncomfortable, but they look really awesome. So you kind of have to, take the good and take the bad when it comes to shoes sometimes. And it makes sense that Bert would wear an uncomfortable but very stylish looking shoe. And I'm just like, I love that they're not super clean, that they kind of have a little bit of, it's not dirt, but it just looks like they've been worn a little bit. And absolutely love that. And I just feel like NECA's killing it with this line in regards to especially the shoes. And so, yeah, this thing feels great in my hands. And then the tactile difference between the clothes and like the subtle different feelings of the plastic is just great, and just gives a whole other dimension, like I've been saying, to this character. And I am absolutely very happy with this figure. And again, I felt like Bert's hair would probably look like this, and it makes more sense, but seeing it and touching it is kind of a weird thing for me. I don't know. It's not a bad thing, but it's just kind of funny. And then being able to touch his eyebrow, I don't know. I'm probably making this weird right now, but yeah, his unibrow is kind of giving me all kinds of joy right now. So anyway, before I make this any more weird, let's talk about what he comes with. So Bert comes with one open-mouthed head, one closed-mouthed head, 6 interchangeable hands, his collection of bottle caps, his collection of paper clips, his book of boring stories, his pigeon Bernice, and the letter A. All right, now let's take a look at the articulation you're going to get out of Bert. So starting at the head, he's got 360 at the neck. He's got some side-to-side action, a little bit there, a little bit there. He can look up a decent amount. He can look down, a little bit. You can kind of make it work if you can get it to stick. Kind of pops up a little bit sometimes, so your mileage may vary there. But he's got some side-to-side action too, so he's got a pretty decent amount of articulation in the neck. Moving on to the shoulders, his arms can go out that far. They have 360 at the shoulder as well. He's got a 360 swivel at the elbow as well as an elbow joint. He's got 360 at the wrist as well as a wrist joint there too for some wrist action. And then into the torso, you get some... Oh, I just popped his leg off. Oh my goodness. Well, that just freaked me out. Goodness, these Sesame Street figures are kind of freaking me out. Well, we're going to leave that off for now. But yeah, so in the torso, he does have a little bit, as if the buck underneath him does have the capability for some torso action and whatnot, some chest articulation, things like that, ab crunch, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it is impeded by the shirt. So again, your mileage may vary there. He's got 360 at the waist. His split articulation, his split range is pretty good. Well, it's probably a little too good actually. But yeah, as you can see, he's got a ball joint in there, and then he does have a thigh swivel, as well as a knee swivel that gets you 360 at the knee, as well as a joint to bend the knee. And then he's got 360 at the ankle, and it's also an ankle rocker. So there you go. And if I'm not mistaken, that is all the articulation you're going to get out of Bert. So I tried to find an accurate source for the height and weight of these characters. The only thing I could find was that Big Bird stands at 8 feet 2 inches tall. So in comparison, I think that Bert is probably somewhere in the 5'10" area, and Ernie's somewhere in the 5 to 5'5" range. As far as the weight of the actual character, I'd have no way of knowing. If you know, let me know. However, this figure stands at about 7 inches tall to the top of his hair and weighs around 4 ounces. So now let's see how he measures up to some other figures you might have in your collection. Here he is with Jada Toys' Mega Man Elecman and NECA's Alf. Here he is with Jada Toys' Street Fighter Ken Masters and SH Figuarts Senkocho Seiho Kamen Rider Kuga. Here he is with the NECA 1987 animated series Raphael and the NECA Return to New York Michelangelo. Here he is with the Mattel New Eternia Skeletor and Marvel Legends Loki. Here he is with McFarlane's DC Multiverse Corrupted Superman and Jazzware's Fortnite Beef Boss. Here he is with SH Figuarts Super Mario and Figma's Link. Here he is with the Palisades Adventure Kermit. And here he is with NECA's Ernie and Count Von Count. And here he is with DC Direct's Batman Arkham Asylum Killer Croc and Marvel Select's Hulk. So I consider myself a pretty big Muppets fan, and the Sesame Street Muppets are also included in that, and Bert is up there as one of my favorites. Probably because of his dynamic with Ernie, and their energy is the usual dynamic that I have with my friends, so maybe there's something there. I don't know, there's just something about both of these characters that you don't want to separate, but at the same time you appreciate them individually as well, but they just work so well together. And I always appreciated the befuddled look on Bert and just his straight man act. I just always appreciated and loved. And I think that NECA did an amazing job bringing all of that character and all of those features into this figure and bringing it to life in plastic form. This figure looks incredible. I am extremely taken with this. They did such a good job nailing the paint and the sculpt to where they could capture just the sheer disbelief that Bert usually has on his face, where he can't understand what is going on around him because of all of the chaos that Ernie has sown. And I absolutely love that. The figure itself is great. The one thing I've noticed on these figures, at least in my experience, is that it took a little getting used to the shirt covering the upper part of the torso articulation, just because I'm more used to like Marvel Legends, and the NECA figures that I do have are generally the Ninja Turtles. So if there's anything covered up, usually you see it on the sides and stuff. So for some reason, there was a learning curve there, or maybe like something that just needed to take a slight getting used to. But once you get past that, it's fine. You don't have an issue with it. But just thought I'd mention that was a little weird for me at first. But overall, I'm just very, very happy with this figure. I absolutely love all the folds and the clothes that just bring these characters to life instead of just being like flat, straight surfaces or whatever. No, you got like ripples and waves and texture on these clothes. It's just awesome. As far as the accessories, I love how much they've been able to pack into these figures. Big fan of that. I love the letter people that they're including. Like, I've been able to get a lot of mileage, at least in the fun department, out of those characters, putting them around my dioramas when I'm taking shots, because it just makes the scene look like an episode of Sesame Street that went way off the rails. And I absolutely love that. And it's just a subtle addition of, I guess, for lack of a better term, a character that is just put like in the background. And that's all it takes to make the scenery change and just give it a different life or a different like context. And I absolutely love it. His collection of bottle caps and paper clips are really neat, and I do appreciate them. I wasn't able to find a lot of use for them in what I was doing, but like, it's still neat that they included them, and I'm a big fan of that. And then his book of boring stories, that's just excellent. I absolutely love that. And so, yeah, I mean, like I said, I wasn't able to really get a lot of mileage out of them yet, but definitely cool that they're included. Absolutely. Always a big fan of extra heads, and I think they did a fantastic job, given that the Muppets were designed this way to where their little micro expressions and the movements and the body language and all the stuff that they were incorporating with the puppetry could go so far with just a little bit. I think that NECA was able to somehow harness that and make it to where you could do the same thing with these figures. And I'm a huge fan of that. So yeah. Oh, and then I almost forgot about Bernice. Always love a small animal accessory, and Bernice is excellent. So there you go. Yeah. As far as posability and playability, Bert was a lot of fun to pose and put in shots with other characters that he might not normally work with, but for some reason he does. And I think that has to do with the Muppet Show and Sesame Street just in general, sharing the same world as regular humans on the show. That, like, people would just come up and talk to him like it was no big deal, and acted like they weren't any different. And I think that translates to these characters in general, but the way that NECA can make these figures and put the detail and the liveliness into these characters makes it even more so that they can blend in with your live action movie figures or your Marvel superheroes or your DC superheroes, whichever superhero you want, or your Ninja Turtles or whatever. You can kind of sort of make them work with pretty much any 6-inch scale action figure, I think. And that's awesome. And I had a ton of fun posing them with all these different characters and seeing what would work. And then again, like I mentioned, throwing the letter people up in there just adds to the idea that maybe this is an episode of Sesame Street. And I don't know. The only issue that I had were switching out the heads, especially the open mouth head. To get the pressure on the head to snap it into place, I felt like it put too much pressure on the mouth, and it got to where it looked like it could have broke. So you really want to be careful when you're switching heads, but just keep that in mind. I mean, it's doable, but like just use caution and be patient, but take that for what you will. Overall, I am enamored with this line. I am so excited to have these figures in my collection. So if you collect Muppets stuff in general, you'll dig this figure. If you have Ernie, but you think you can live without having Bert, you might need to seek some medical attention. Just saying. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I think that's a fair assessment. If you collect figures of characters who play the straight man in a comedy duo, then Bert is one of the best. Or if you collect figures with unibrows, then you will absolutely not be disappointed with NECA's Bert. All right, well, that's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button. If you want to see more from me, hit subscribe. Let me know in the comments. Who's your favorite Muppet? Who's your favorite character that has a unibrow? Let me know in the comments. And until then, else time.